Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 Million by 1 Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. As you know, 1M by 1M is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. We run it out of Silicon Valley, but with a global footprint. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. And in support of that mission, we've been doing these free mentoring sessions for more than 10 years. This is the 424th free mentoring roundtable, and we have that many and more of our private roundtables for our premium members. There are probably more than 500 of those. So we've been doing a lot of roundtables, just like Maureen said as soon as I got on the call, that I just felt like I just talked to you. Well, we just had a roundtable last night. That was a private roundtable, so we are doing a lot of roundtables. So these, by the way, these events have been attended by more than 100,000 people. So it's getting out there, and we are seeing people from all over the world. It's been fascinating learning about what's going on in different parts of the world. The event is being recorded. You'll find a recording available on our YouTube channel, 1M1M Roundtables. Every single session is available there, and this one will be too. If you are live tweeting the show today, please use hashtag 1M1M. Our Twitter handles are at 1M1M and at Stromana. Tons of rich content gets published through those channels. So if you're looking for learning channels, those are great ones. Now, this is a roundtable, not a broadcast. We want you to participate. We want to hear what you're thinking. We want to know who you are. We want you to network. So treat it as such. Use the public chat, set it to send to all participants. Don't send me private messages because I will be speaking with Sara soon. I will not be able to dialogue with you in public chat, but it is a public chat, so you can dialogue with your peers here. And later on in the program, I will use the public chat to pick up questions and bring in discussions from the public chat. And the questions, your opportunity to also call in and ask questions is available through the phone. I will put the slide back up a bit later. Today we're going to start with Sara Sutton, founder and CEO of FlexJobs. Sara, welcome. It's been so long. I haven't seen you.
It's wonderful to see you again, Stromana. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to see you indeed, absolutely. So you've been busy and you've been doing some great stuff. Tell our audience about FlexJobs.
Sure. I think it's been a long time since I've spoken with you, but we've stayed true to our mission. FlexJobs started a little over 12 years ago, or about 12 years ago, with the mission of helping people find jobs that better fit their lives. And we focus on work flexibility, but really what that means is anything outside of the full-time on-site traditional job. So that can be freelance, part-time, flexible schedule, alternative schedule, or remote options. And with those, we have a team of researchers that spends over 100 hours a day hand screening every single job for our website. In that, we're looking for three things. One, that they have the kind of flexibility. The other, that they're professional. So we kind of focus on career path jobs. And then the also is that they're legitimate because particularly in the remote and work from home space, there's a lot of scams. So we've really been, staying true to that, helping people in a lot of different ways, providing resources and skills tests and kind of career coaching in a lot of different areas to help them be able to take advantage of these kind of changing work trends.
So, we are huge believers in virtual companies. This is a big trend right now, and we are running a virtual company ourselves. My colleagues are almost, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them are doing the kind of mode of working that you're talking about, although we all work very hard. It's not like we're not working hard, but it is flexible and it is tremendously convenient. Maureen, who has been on our team for more than 10 years, has 4 children, and she has had a great amount of flexibility to be able to deal with the complexity of that balance. So tell us a bit about Tell us a bit about how can entrepreneurs building virtual companies leverage FlexJobs? What are some specific recommendations and use cases?
Well, I would say there's a couple of different angles. One, like yourself and your organization, we're a totally remote company. And so we really believe in helping to share that information. So just on an entrepreneurial B2B sharing information side, I'm not sure if you're aware, we also have a website called Remote Co. that's part of our kind of family. And it's a resource for where we've interviewed over 130 companies that are primarily remote. And we share information on how to be remote. We've asked these companies over 30 questions of like Q&A type. Why are they remote? What are the pros and cons? What are the challenges? What are the tools? And so just from that side of things, I'll just toss that as a little nugget because there's, it's just, I wanted, like you, I wanted to be able to share information that I was learning on the job. You know, when we started, there weren't really any resources for how to create a remote company or a virtual workforce. And so I wanted to share that information and have other organizations, and we'd love to interview you for that if you're game at some point. On the FlexJobs side, of course, we help entrepreneurs as they're bootstrapping, if they're looking for additional income that allows them to have a flexible schedule or part-time schedule while they're also working on their passion project or their business. We also, there's the area of employment and hiring. So in terms of being able to tap into candidates and resources that, for example, if you're in the Bay Area and you're trying to do a startup and you're hiring, you're competing against a lot of very large organizations who are paying top dollar for candidates, whereas if you engage a little bit of remote or flexibility, you can often get candidates either in different geographical locations or candidates that haven't been in the workplace because they haven't been able to find a more flexible or part-time situation. And that can be anything from, yes, working parents are probably the most visible candidate pool of that, but really it's not just working parents. It can be military spouses, it can be people with health issues, it can be people who are caretaking loved ones who are ill, and then if you tie in the remote, it can be people in rural areas that don't have economic opportunities and healthy job markets near them, so they're looking for opportunities. So there's a lot of different ways.
So, you know, in our world, there are certain trends that we see where I think it would be great to be able to leverage FlexJobs kinds of, you know, people from your community of applicants. For example, because we have a global program and we are a Silicon Valley-based program that is global, there are a lot of people who come in from elsewhere and are trying to get themselves situated, and they need you know, they need certain things. They need, often sales is an area where they need help, and you know, and it could actually be inside sales. It could be, these days there are a lot of deals that are relatively smaller price point deals, you know, maybe $20,000, $10,000, $20,000 annual recurring revenue kinds of contracts. To sell those, you can't really visit people. You have to close those deals on the phone. So is that a category? Is sales a category that we should be looking at FlexJobs to hire from?
Absolutely. I mean, when we started FlexJobs, one of the intentions was that, quite honestly, at that time especially, again, flexible work and remote work were really viewed as kind of a mom job, or a kind of in this one bucket, and often as at lower skill kind of roles, and or just scams and not really jobs. As you kind of, even in your intro, you were alluding to the fact that as a remote company, you work really hard, and a lot of people still don't realize that work from home jobs are really legitimate and really a very viable professional option. So when we started, we didn't want to just do one or two industries. We intentionally did all industries, and in that, certainly sales is one of them. And we also cover the experience level from entry level to executive. So sales, inside, outside, B2B, B2C, any of it are definitely roles. But in terms of entrepreneurial, when you're starting, I think oftentimes you're looking for people who can, who are interested in being self-disciplined and kind of in their career track, but are really open to the passion for the job. And I think that some of that might lend itself to the audience, that people are choosing work flexibility often for some other element in their personal lives, but when they care about a job, they're willing to give 110%, and I think that's something that's really fantastic, and an opportunity for entrepreneurs to tap into because they're so passionate themselves and often looking for team members that are also.
And conversely, I think you're in the community of job seekers, flexible job seekers, often don't find a lot of startups to join or be part of, and be part of a startup team and really feel like a part of a startup team. I mean, our team feels like a startup team. It's our team. It's not like just because we are a virtual company it doesn't feel like a team. It's completely a team. So that sense of belonging in a small team that is doing great things as a startup is very fulfilling, right?
Absolutely. I think that starting in a remote environment, when I was starting FlexJobs, FlexJobs was my second company. I had started a different job service when I was in my 20s. I dropped out of college in kind of at the height of the internet boom, and started the first entry-level job site. And so in doing so, I've had the experience of creating a company culture from an in-office experience, but that was amazing. And I still to this day have friends who said that was the best company culture they've ever worked in, people who had worked at my first company. And that was something that was really important to me. It was just very meaningful. So when I started FlexJobs, I wanted to be very conscientious in what I brought from an in-office experience as a startup to a virtual one. And I would think about, what were the things that are challenges in an office? What are the things that I can't do I can't see the person. If somebody's really frustrated, my team member's frustrated, can't see that they're banging their head against the wall or stomping around. So how do I compensate for that? Remote is fantastic for a lot of things, but it's not, there are different areas where it shines, and then there's others where there's some limitations that you have to be sure that you're addressing. So it was really fun, and we were able to do that. We've been able to create an amazing culture, and I think that that's one thing I'm really proud of. And I've heard from a lot of other remote companies. We're around a little over 100 people, and it's something that having a healthy company culture is absolutely possible. And not just healthy, but a fantastic company culture is possible in a remote environment. We've actually won or been on the list of Entrepreneur Magazine's top 150 company cultures in the U.S. for their last 3 lists. And it's a virtual company it's pretty rare. So, so it's something that we take very seriously, and we love sharing information about.
Now, the other part of this entrepreneurial culture is that, yes, the 1Mby1M community has a massive footprint in the startup world, international footprint. Our global startups are looking to get a toehold in the U.S. without going belly up. But there is also, startups tend to be resource constrained. So are creative compensation models acceptable to your community, like, commission-only sales or equity compensations? Are these things that your community resonates with?
Unfortunately, no. It's not something that we provide. It's something that we have shifted away from, not just from the startup perspective, but commission only. For example, is an area that I guess I should take a step back and explain how FlexJobs' revenue model works. So we're a low-cost subscription service for job seekers. So our clients are the job seekers primarily. We also work with employers. We work with thousands of employers from startups to Fortune 500s in helping them recruit and do branding for themselves and all of that type of hiring elements. But there's 2 sides to it. One is our job seekers, because they're paying us, and because 99.9% of job sites do not charge job seekers, when they join our site, they're really looking for jobs that pay. And that's something we learned by trial and error. We used to have commission-only jobs, and that was something we would get complaints about a lot. So our particular audience overall is not keen on that. Similar with MLMs and any upfront payment to get involved, we kind of made the choice. It was a hard choice to put those aside. Similarly with startups, I'd be honest in saying that if you're just starting, then we're not the best place we're not the best ecosystem, primarily because we're remote and because we vet every single company and employer. We need to have some way to prove that you're legitimate and valid and professional. So without any, if you're within that first, the time frame doesn't necessarily matter, but in that first stage where you really don't have anything showing yet, then it's very difficult for us to do that. And in the interest of protecting our database and making sure, it's really quite challenging to make sure that companies who come in are always legitimate and professional.
What do you mean by that, legitimate and professional? We have companies that are selling, that are, they're trying to go from 5 customers to 50 customers to 500 customers. What's not legitimate about these companies?
Oh, I mean nothing about those companies. But for us, about 70% of the companies that come into our system or who are trying to get into our system are scammers. And some of them are more obvious than others. So this is nothing personal to your audience, and perhaps there's something we could work out that if they had a secret, like a password, if they use the 1Mby1M Roundtable password or something, or that's how they say they heard about it, that would help us legitimize it. But in general, for our research team, we have to look at any company startup in your business model. You'll have to look at how you can make it work. And for us, the companies, if we let a scam company on our site and they abuse our job seekers, or take money from them or steal our identity, it's very risky. So for us, we have to be able to provide some kind of, we need to be able to confirm somehow. So for a lot of startups, that's a challenge, especially when they're in that very first phase where it's, I'll say it's all on paper. Obviously nowadays it's not all on paper, but it's still very private, and especially when you're in stealth mode and you're not willing to convey any information publicly. Like we have to have contact information, all those kind of basic things. So, but yeah, so I think that there are a lot of wonderful boards out there for the, AngelList, et cetera, for the ones that are really, really early. But anywhere past that, we definitely can help. And I think a lot of the early stage companies, when they're looking to hire for more economical ways and access talent pools that aren't readily available to other competitors and bigger competitors, absolutely. We help lots of startups.
So talk a bit about the trends in your community from startups to Fortune 500. What are the trends in the remote work world?
Well, I mean, I think that in terms of career categories or just in general?
Yeah, in general.
I think that we're seeing it advance, but it's going slower than I personally would like. I think the biggest trend that we're working towards and we're hearing about are companies starting to formalize, continuing to adapt and formalize policies around remote and flexible work. We did a survey a few years ago with the North American, with an organization called World at Work, and interviewed 350, at this time it's large organizations, but they didn't track the ROI. So over 80% of them said that they had flexible work policies of some sort, generally a little bit more ad hoc and informal, but they had some kind of way for their employees to work flexibly. Less than 3% said they tracked the ROI. And so that's a big problem. So I think that those elements of looking at what your savings are, what the benefits are, what all of the different areas that why you would want to be remote, and really embracing those early on as a company is something that more companies are doing, and I think as more examples of great companies doing it are helping to kind of create an ecosystem where they realize it's a competitive edge, actually, to be able to integrate.
Are there examples in Fortune 500 of companies that are really active in your community and are kind of the thought leaders in flexible jobs policies?
Yeah, I mean, we've done a conference a couple of years in a row in D.C. That focuses on a lot of different size companies, but many of the bigger ones come and speak: Dell, Cisco, ADP, PricewaterhouseCoopers, or PwC now, Aetna, Xerox, lots of different, a wide range, a lot of the educational organizations, Kaplan, Internationally, VIP Kid is a very, we work very closely with them on brand recognition and recruiting. There's a lot of different companies that are integrating it in a really serious way. And one of the fundamental belief systems that I think, if you're thinking a little bit in the future workplace, and you look at all the technology we have available, the concept that you have to be in one place is really antiquated, and it also is wrong.
We don't believe in it at all.
Right. Well, and these large organizations, they all have different locations. So
exactly.
I've heard Kate Lister from Global Workplace Analytics, she said this first, but and she said it at our conference called the TradWorks Forum, that whether you're 7 floors away, 7 buildings away, 7 states away, 7 countries away, it's all the same remote and having to coordinate through technology platforms. So I think that it's something that these bigger companies, some of these leaders really do get that. We do a lot of different virtual events, and we've done brand marketing, and we've done lots of different niche hiring and working with these companies to help. But the branding part is really big right now.
What about industry sector? Do you see any trends industry sector-wise where they're earlier adopters or more active adopters of flexible jobs?
Yeah, customer service is definitely a big one. Sales has always been actually quite remote. It might be on the road, but those are the traveling salesman concepts, right? But that's shifted a lot. A lot more of it is remote.
And I mean, sales is an ideal one, which is why I started there, because if you're trying to set up a few different sales offices in different parts of the country or different parts of the world, you normally end up hiring people who work from home. A lot of salespeople have basically home offices, work from home offices. So it's a very natural segue into your mode of work.
Absolutely.
What about geography?
Sales is definitely a big one. Well, and I would also mention IT and tech and web development are very big. Content, writing, editing, graphic design. But really, we have over 50 different career categories and pretty much jobs, and we've had remote neurosurgeon jobs. We've had medical and health is huge, from telemedicine, case management, like all kinds of different things. But if you're in the health tech space or any kind of entrepreneurial venture in that space, really, really popular.
Okay. And geography, is it all U.S. or is it worldwide?
It's worldwide. We're primarily U.S.-based, but we certainly work with not only global organizations, but candidates from all over. So yes, it's U.S.-based, but we have a lot of anywhere jobs, so that can be done from anywhere in the world.
So actually, that's a very good segue into the competitive landscape that you play in. So we, for instance, have for many years hired extensively from Upwork. It's worked very well for us. We have a number of virtual assistants from the Philippines and so on and so forth, right? Our technical team was hired on Upwork, and they're based in Rajasthan, India, and so on and so forth. So if you contrast your service versus Upwork, where are the strengths and weaknesses?
Well, a couple of years ago, I happened to sit down next to. I work a lot with the World Economic Forum, and I was at a conference of theirs in China, and I sat next to the former CEO of Odesk, and it was before it was Upwork, and he asked me, I've heard of FlexJobs, so how are you different than us? And I said, we overlap in terms of FlexJobs has freelance jobs on our site. But we really largely work with an audience of people who don't, we have people who consider themselves freelancers, but we also work with a lot of people who would consider freelance work but don't consider themselves freelancers. And that's a large pool of people, and it has evolved so much in terms of the types of jobs that are available as freelance work compared to 10 or 15 years ago. So that and a lot of those platforms, if you're not a freelancer, those are quite intimidating and or not really conducive to your type of job search. So those are the kinds of jobs we do. So we do overlap. We certainly have freelancers who use our site to build their funnel, but we don't take a cut of every contract. We're not a middle person. So it's a different business model, but yeah,
it's a different business model, obviously. I was wondering what, from a hiring company's point of view, it sounds like the pool of talent could be in either place. So what are the pros and cons? I think as somebody who's looking for jobs, one may fit different kinds of people better than others. And I think Upwork is very international. It's like a fantastic place to hire from all kinds of random geographies, and that has its benefits. But if you're looking for, I wouldn't go to Upwork, for instance, to hire salespeople for the United States. That's not their sweet spot. On the other hand, technical teams, content teams, virtual assistants, they do very well with those kinds of jobs.
They started with verticals. I mean, way back when, they definitely started in more verticals, and I think to this day they're still stronger in certain verticals. And for us, 60% of the jobs on our site are employee status. So while 40% are freelance, we really, I mean, it's pretty balanced, but employee status is something that a lot of our job seekers either come in thinking they want. Again, that's kind of their comfort zone. They've never freelanced before in many cases. And also our average age is more around between 30 and 50. So we go further beyond that scope. But I think that the freelance generation or the freelancer base is skewed younger in many cases. And so it's also just different comfort zones. So people might come into our site thinking they wanted a job.
If you're looking at people who are looking for employee status, there's probably a big benefit angle to it, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, absolutely. If that's what you need, either for healthcare purposes or it's it's a little more stable. It's just a different situation.
Yeah, it gives an idea about what's the sweet spot. Absolutely. Sara,
that's kind of what I love about flexibility.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll quickly say, that's what I love about flexibility, is that what works for one person might be very different for another. So that's why we keep it kind of all open.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing what you've been up to, and I'm sure we'll find companies that can leverage your community for their hiring, and we'll catch up later. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Folks, we're going to move to the entrepreneur pitch session. A little bit of expectation setting before we dive in. This is a safe working space for you, working session. So you can feel completely, you don't need to be nervous. You can feel completely comfortable and talk about what is it that you need help with, and we'll try to address that. It is possible that you may disagree with my feedback. That's okay. It's your venture. You're going to decide on what strategy you're going to follow, and that will be just fine. Even if you don't agree with what I tell you, that's fine too. Just remember one thing. Not all businesses can raise money. Not all businesses should raise money. And raising money does not guarantee success. So don't be obsessed about fundraising. We're going to start with Tomas Kovark from Germany. Tomas, could you please come online and tell us what you're up to? Yes, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Tomas Kovark. Thank you for introducing me. I'm from a company called Mindbags. We are located in Forchheim, Germany, close to Nuremberg. And our startup is focusing on creating system for preventing relapses in schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. To give you a little bit more insight into what kind of disorders we are talking about, I'll start with a short story, which I was told by one of our patients. Imagine you are sitting in a cafe, and all of a sudden, everything starts making sense. From the tables and their arrangement, from the noises that you hear from the street, you are 100% sure that the world is coming to an end. So you order the most expensive wine because it makes no sense to to pick up your kids from school, to talk to your wife, and you just wait, spend your fortune on it. So this is what I described right now is a classic example of manic attack that is faced by as many as about 70 million people in Europe and US alone. What is our company actually addressing in it? We have developed an algorithm that, based on data from Actigraph and the data from subjective questionnaires, is attempting to predict that such an attack will happen. How do we try to achieve that? Is that we have a large clinical trial running in Europe with about 300 patients that we are monitoring, and we are basically preparing the product for launch. Why do we think that the product is important not only for the patients themselves? It's because the relapse, in the way that I described it a few seconds ago, is usually resulting into hospitalization. And hospitalization in most developed countries is extremely expensive. So, for example, in Germany alone, like one patient with schizophrenia costs the system about 127,000 euro per year. And like if the person, and half of the costs are basically driven by institutionalization, like because the person when he relapses is usually taken to the hospital, and it takes about like 3, 4, sometimes 4 weeks, sometimes even longer, and he has to be taken care of. He has to be monitored, put into a situation without stress, etc., etc. So we know that like having the option to actually predict that something like that is coming will allow the system to actually take some preemptive measures, such as increased dosage, which is the most obvious one, but not the most welcome one, but like increase the periodicity of behavioral therapies, giving the feedback to the patient, and it's possible. It's proven to be possible that we either prevent the relapses to happen from happening at all, or at least prolonging substantially the period of time between the two relapses. So that's actually our model. We have developed already the algorithm for schizophrenia in the past. We are now preparing a study in Germany that will revalidate this algorithm, which will allow us to get for certification for medical device 2A. And for
Tomas,
this purpose,
I have a few questions before you go on.
Yeah.
Where is the data coming from?
Data is coming from the wristband and from the cell phone.
And what is that data? What are you monitoring?
We're monitoring simple acceleration. It's just a way to get the data, or raw data, based on which we are calculating features like sleep duration, changes in activity, like changes in like the depth of the sleep, etc., etc. All these attributes can be derived from simple like accelerometer data that we are collecting from the wristband. And
who deals with this data, with like the action based on your analysis goes to whom? Who is supposed to act on it?
Well, in the past, the systems like this have been developed, and there was a simple alert that was sent to the physician, and then the physician was supposed to take some action.
Okay.
In our model, it's unfortunately this didn't really work, because when just purely the system has created an alert, then you either were basically setting the sensitivity too high so that you catch everything, but in that case you are usually producing a lot of false alarms, which on the other hand, which in response the physicians were like considering as malfunction of the system. So this is like what was built like in the past year by our competitors, or like former competitors. So we have a little bit upgraded the system, not like a little bit, substantially, the logic. We have these AI algorithms that already detect patterns that the patient is not able to detect himself, like small changes in sleep patterns, small changes in like inactive state, etc. This is one part. So our algorithm is more precise. It's already like at 80% of predicting the relapse a few weeks before it happens. But at the same time, we have developed a rule-based system which allows us to make this information even more precise. So we have set up a call center of trained psychologists. So it's called a sort of telemedicine, which interview the patient and like make sure that like what is actually going on. Maybe he had some fight at home. Maybe he has some external event that is not at all of this disorder nature. So
the action is also something you are providing. This call center of psychiatrists are the ones who are acting on the data.
They are acting on the data to make them more precise, to actually be sure that what the data says, the algorithm, is actually true, or they are more or less validating. And when the data is validated, then it's being shared with the physician with some additional data like past mood changes and sleep patterns over the last several weeks. And this gives the patient much better information. This gives the physician much better information to act. And it's on him to actually decide whether whether and how to adjust the treatment that he's providing.
And who is the customer?
Customer is, so of course, the ultimate customer is the patient. His motivation is because his state is being by monitoring and by monitoring him and by actually assessing what's going on, his state in long term is improving. But of course,
but that's the user who is buying the system.
So, and the buyer of the system, it depends on the country and on the healthcare system. In Europe, in Germany, where we are now focusing primarily, the buyer of the system is the health insurance, because the health insurance the health insurance is bearing the biggest part of the costs. Of course, the society itself as well. But that's why we have established a strong connection with the biggest German insurance company. We have won some of their one of their startup digital health events. So we are now working with them together to actually define the real world parameters of our system, so that we can actually use it in a wider scale, which means that. So, but it doesn't have to be only this way. We understand that in other countries, the patients might be more motivated to actually bear more burden of the care for themselves. We know that there are affluents, that we know that there are patients with higher income for whom the relapse is always extremely damaging, also like financial-wise.
So, Tomas, my recommendation to you is to focus on the countries where you can work with the insurance companies, because consumer marketing is a very expensive affair. If you can work with insurance companies who are the buyers and you can go to market through them, you have all the data about who their mentally ill patients are and who needs monitoring, and you come up with a go-to-market strategy through them and jointly with them. I think that's a much better, you're going to build a much better business than trying to go B2C.
Yeah, that's definitely our strategy. What is important to say that we know that there are other channels to use, but at the moment and for the next few years, we are focusing primarily on big public insurance companies. Of course.
Okay. So now, what's the path to validating that this works? I understand the number. The problem is something that I understand, and it's a real problem. But the fact that your solution works and all that, what have you done to validate that? And what is the path to getting this in the hands of an insurance system that can roll it out?
Well, we are, of course, in a highly regulated environment of medical devices. So what we are doing now, we have for the schizophrenia, we have a little bit older system which is rule-based and which has been validated in Japan to have economic impact. So with this schizophrenia system, we are now planning to rerun the clinical trial in Germany to update it technologically. So that we prepare the clinical evidence for getting CE mark. So for the bipolar patients, we are now running a 300-patient study in Czech Republic and in Germany, and we are which will soon come to an end. And right after that, we will finalize our algorithms and go for German study as well. So this is.
And how long is your clinical trial process?
Our clinical trials are 18 months. They cover in Germany. They will cover for schizophrenia about 200 patients, and for the bipolar they will be of 50 patients with several clinical institutions taking part in it. And so basically, that's what we have projected our future. What is the path to get the CE certification and to actually bring to the insurance company final product. And this is in about 2 years' time that we expect to be starting pilot with schizophrenia. For that, we have secured already we are now in a seed financing round, so we have already 30% of the money committed by our current investors, and we are now discussing with large institutional investors in Germany to actually provide funding for actually finishing the product development and pilot run in Germany.
Okay. Do you have any questions before we move to the next presenter?
No.
All right, good. So the observations I have partly is also there's a lot of behavioral issue that need to be handled, right? Because you are necessarily dealing with unstable patients, and there are lots of issues with monitoring unstable patients. They can take off the wristband, they can they may not be reachable when they need to be reached the most. There's all kinds. They may refuse to talk to your call center. There are all kinds of issues that you're going to have to tackle in this process. Mental health is one of the hardest areas to build solutions for.
But honestly, during these studies, we have developed a lot of we have fine-tuned the process. So basically, at the moment, it is very surprising to us at the end, and at the other hand, it's very good. Our patients actually started to actually trust us, and sometimes they are trusting us even more than the doctors. So they stick extremely to the trials. We have less than 10% drop off, and this is fantastic. I don't think it's unprecedented in the area, and it's not only about the algorithms. It's about the people that are working in our company, the psychologists who spend their time, who talk to the people, and are building also a relationship with them that actually allows us to do this so smoothly.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Very good. Thank you, Tomas, for your presentation. We are going to Seamus next, from Seamus Small from Kinesis Health Technologies. Seamus, please unmute your line and tell us what you're doing.
Hi. Thanks.
Hello.
Sramana, thanks for having me today. So, in the introduction, so I am, Seamus Small, based in Ireland. So Kinesis, we are an Irish company that spun out of a large aging research centre funded by Intel and the Irish government. And the focus for us as a company is on falls prevention. So we just move to the next slide. So just to put into context the challenge that falls presents. They're very common. 1 in 3 people over the age of 65 fall every year. It also has a significant impact on the individual, their family, the health system, and society in general. Costs are quite significant, $50 billion per annum in the US every single year, and 25 billion euro in the EU. Plus, we also have the additional challenge or opportunity that the world is growing older, and that the plus 65 population in 2015 was 608 million. That will be rising to 995 million by 2030. So it's something we need to do something about, and that's what we're all about. So our vision is that we want to see a reduction in the number of falls in older adults by 50%, and delivering that through early and targeted intervention. And our mission is to provide scalable, cost-effective digital health solutions, really with a focus to engage, empower, and motivate older adults to prevent falls. So that's the mission. And how we do that is we provide a range of digital health solutions that can screen, assess, and intervene in order to prevent falls. So first and foremost, if we're looking at screening, it's about undertaking online questionnaires, online assessments that allows the older adult or family member to carry out a falls risk assessment to determine if somebody is at risk or otherwise. And then if they are at risk, then recommending that they seek a more comprehensive assessment. And our core product is based in that assessment space, which provides a specific risk category of low, medium, and high. And there's a specific intervention for each of those categories. So for us, it's not just as important to case find those at high risk. It's important to deliver positive biofeedback to people who may be at low risk, that their risk is low, giving them some confidence, reducing a fear of falling. For example, for those who are at medium risk, it's providing some guidance and understanding what risk factors exist. And those who are at high risk, referring them on to existing clinical services. So we'll just move on to the next slide.
And what's the assessment, Seamus?
So the assessment is based on a standard functional test called the Timed Up and Go test, or the TUG test. And we have instrumented that test using inertial sensors. So we precisely measure their performance doing that test, and then we compare them to the population and also combine an analysis of their demographics in terms of age, gender, height, and weight, and their response to a standard questionnaire. So that's the assessment component.
So this sensor that you're talking about, what is the usage model? How does the let's say, patients access this test? Is that something that gets sent to them? They go into a clinic? What is the delivery model?
So it's delivered in primary care, home health, community health. It's delivered in secondary care as well as in residential. So it's not a self-assessment. It's a supervised assessment that is carried out by a broad range of users, ranging from geriatricians down through to carers. So the screening is that online solution that provides some. It's starting to create conversation around falls and making people aware that falls are not inevitable and they can be prevented. So just raising that awareness through their online screening and questionnaires, moving on to the QTUG. So they carried out the standard functional test. The sensors precisely measure their performance, and then we run the algorithms to provide their risk score. And
are you selling the sensor? Is that your sensor?
No, yeah, that's our sensor, but we license and lease the combination of hardware and software. So in essence, we develop software solutions that employ intelligent health diagnostics. So we, although officially are a medical device manufacturer because we ship out hardware, the vast majority of the intelligence in the product in which has been used is the software side of things.
Okay. And what kind of regulatory approval do you need to be able to do this?
So we're currently registered as a Class 1 medical device with the FDA, with Health Canada, CE marked across the EU and in Australia. So we are a classified medical device. Okay. So just in terms of the customers, so predominantly what we have been doing to date is a B2B model. Through a range of primary care, secondary care, and residential care providers. There is use case and applicability across all of these different settings for falls risk assessment, for falls. For us, the primary care and prevention, we see that the opportunity is in population health and prevention, and that obviously involves primary care actors, those who are delivering care in the community. Secondary care is an important stakeholder because they're part of the falls pathway because they have some services that are delivering, and then obviously residential care, the assisted senior living and nursing home. We also are in terms of customer stroke user, we're working out a B2C proposed model. But certainly there is a B2C or a consumer use case, if not a customer, with regard to them, somebody paying for some online solutions.
So my instinct would be to kind of discourage you from going in that direction, because B2C customer acquisition is extremely expensive, and I think if you can go to market through the B2B route, it's a much, much better, more effective strategy.
Yeah, no, I thought that. Given the last conversation. So just in terms of value proposition, there is a value proposition for the older adult or family member. So even if they're not paying for it, it's improving engagement and awareness around falls. They providing some guidance and motivation to reduce those risk factors and also reducing a fear of falling by taking action. The health providers and care providers is really improving the quality of care and services provided to their clients. One of the big value propositions we have is our solution can be used by a broad range of non-expert users, so it allows them to deliver screening and prevention programs at scale. So traditionally, a falls risk assessment would be carried out by an expert physical therapist or trained nurse who observes somebody doing a functional test. But with QTUG, the sensor precisely measures their performance and then provides a result back that the non-expert users have certain confidence that they're relying and referring people on accordingly. And then from a health insurer perspective, it's obviously any reduction in falls has a significant reduction in costs, and it also has a value proposition in an added benefit to attract and retain members by providing a benefit for falls.
So this is what I would like to understand better is what have you done? Have you had conversations with health insurance companies? Are they willing to cover this test? And have you had any interaction with that category, that segment?
Sure, yeah. So the largest health insurer in Ireland has a funded benefit for all our members across the country. And we partner with a physical therapy provider to offer that service. So absolutely, the health insurer, stroke payer, has a significant role to play in the future success of our activity. But that's only one component. So that reimbursement, that paid, our covered element where our end customer, B2B customer, which is the provider, they obviously long term to have some reimbursement on the product is absolutely critical. However, there's the economics of doing and using the product in advance of that reimbursement is still valuable.
So my instinct says that you need to kind of work through that process of, a health insurance payer, and health insurer, and the primary care units kind of come together. So the primary care unit is equipped to provide the tests, and the health insurer is equipped to pay for the tests, and the data that the health insurance companies have about patients who have had falls and are higher risk patients be encouraged to do this test, and so on and so forth. You kind of need to work through that whole model to get your first set of customers. I think that would be
I completely agree. I think for us, we need some in-market traction to get the attention of certain health insurers. So they, in principle, we like it, but they need to see it being used. They need to see some response and benefits before they scale out. So, for example, for us, go to a federal CMS Medicare reimbursement, we won't get that without in-market evidence that the use of the technology with existing care providers has a benefit.
You have to validate. So what is the status of validation right now?
So we have product in place. We have in Ireland, UK, US, Canada, and Australia. The US and UK is the two key markets where we have activity. And so we have some revenue. We're able to implement a business model in the short term to get product into place. So that health care provider provide and pay an annual license for the use of the software, hardware, and services. The activity billing is through that reimbursement model from the health insurer, and obviously the business model on the B2C, if we do go down that route, at the moment would be most likely a freemium app, but what we have been considering
is Seamus, how much of this is actually happening today versus what you want to do in the future? Is anything happening right now?
Yeah, the only one that isn't happening is the freemium app.
It doesn't need to happen as far as I'm concerned. But in terms of how many healthcare providers are offering this test right now? How many annual licenses have you sold?
We've 200 to 300 approximately units out in the field with a range of, and we went to market initially with a straight outright buy where you didn't get signed up to an ongoing license to get early adopters and incentivize them coming on. But then we transitioned to a license-based model in the last 12 months.
So these 200 to 300 units that are out there, are people using those to actually deliver this service, these tests?
Yes.
And how much have you sold these units for, and how much are they charging? What do we know about these business model pieces?
So most of them have been deployed into a public health initiative and arena, specifically within the UK. In the US, they have been more used in residential care, so I don't think they're passing on the cost of the unit to their client base. Some of our clients are in private practice and they are charging, but I'm not 100% sure exactly what they're charging, but they see it as a nominal cost on top of the existing care provided. So the the pricing of that is something obviously we're looking to tie down. From our perspective, our strategy is to go scale, not to be niche and have a high margin on something which is only used by a small select few. We must prefer to get it out at a reasonable cost where we can effectively change the way falls are managed around the world.
So I would advise you to actually think about how to go to market. You don't go to market at scale. No startup company succeeds in going to market at scale. So you kind of have to find the niche use case where you're getting the maximum traction and where the business model of bringing this test to the client base, whatever be the model, whether it's a residential care facility to which you're selling and they're just using it to offer a better service to their client base, or it's a healthcare provider who's actually charging for it. Whatever is the use case that is getting the maximum traction, you really need to build the market penetration strategy around that. So in your install base, in the pieces that you've sold so far, in the units that you've sold so far, try to understand where is the maximum usage and the maximum client satisfaction right now.
Yeah.
And what are the business model implications around it?
Yeah, that makes sense. I won't go through this in any particular detail, I guess, from our perspective. This is fairly standard
Don't
stuff.
go through this. I would actually, since you are a premium member, you're a scholarship winner of the EIT Health partnership that we have. I would like you to actually do that research within your 200-300 units that you have out there to figure out what use cases are really getting the client satisfaction, and then come back and talk to me at one of the upcoming private or public roundtables. Maureen can schedule you when you're ready. And then I would like to look at the data with you and then determine the customer acquisition strategy based on that. So you kind of need to position this product for maximum high velocity adoption.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. So let's take a look at the data. Let's take a look at what use cases are working and what kind of numbers are we seeing and what are the business model implications we are seeing, and then work out the details from there. Let me take a quick look at your questions. Possible to serve a professional market? No, I don't think you should do a consumer market at all right now. Let's just figure out what B2B strategy works. But even if within B2B you have 3 or 4 different strategies that you rattled out, let's find the one that has the maximum high velocity adoption right now and really roll that out and figure out the full strategy around that. So the things that you'd find helpful within the 1M1M program to do what you're doing is in the curriculum. So we have in the core curriculum there is extensive information about customer validation, about customer acquisition, and so forth. So I would encourage you to spend some time studying the curriculum. There is a tremendous amount that you will learn in terms of go-to-market strategies and positioning. But we focus, in this program, we focus tremendously on positioning. And that's why our companies are able to gain traction without huge amounts of funding, because we go very segmented, very sharply positioned, and then look for that high velocity market penetration opportunity and position the company for that. And this is a strategy that is tried and true. We've done it for many, many years, and I know it works. So all I want to do with you is to have you, learn some of the methodology that we leverage, and then apply together. We'll, figure out what is the right strategy for you to get to a high velocity adoption curve.
That's great. Thank you for your guidance and advice.
You're very welcome. And presence required in U.S. or non-U.S., we don't know yet. Let's first look at the data, and then we'll decide where we are going to position this.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. You're very welcome. Yusuf, you are up next.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon. Yusuf Henriques, born and raised in Kingston, Jamaica, live currently in Rockville, Maryland. Big adrenaline junkie. Prime military, jumped out of perfectly good airplanes for a living. So I've continued that high adrenaline rush over my career, even though I'm a little older now.
All right.
So TruGenomix, we're a precision genomics company developing solutions for post-traumatic stress disorder by offering risk stratification screening tools with actionable insight. That's our website there, www.TruGenomix, Twitter. The pain we're trying to solve, personal story, my kid's aftercare provider in 2012 took his life. I just glad that he loved kids and didn't decide to make it a catastrophic event. And so you're starting to see that in the news of multiple military members committing suicide and creating catastrophic trauma with other individuals. So about 500 to 400,000 individuals in the military serving in the last 2 wars have been diagnosed or suffering PTSD, costing the military and DOD and the VA about $1.1 billion. And the number that wasn't settled for me when I decided to start on this journey 6 years ago was 20 suicides a day. Societally, it's about 24 million individuals, 8% of the U.S. Struggle with this per year. It costs about $8,300 per patient, and it's a $43 billion economic impact for individuals that are lost to work. Next slide, please. Next. So what we're planning on doing at TruGenomix, we're going to be building a screening test based on about 27 to 30 years of research done by Mount Sinai and Max Planck Institute in Germany. There's a patent methodology around a specific set of genes, and we've really expanded that working with Illumina, who's a next-gen sequencing marketing, has about 85% market cap. And so what we plan on doing is screening individuals going into the military or in high volatile positions like firefighter, first responder, which is in the military, your blood's already collected, doing next-gen sequencing, looking at gene expression for the first baseline panel, and then providing an outcome report to their physician so they can make determination and decisions going forward. Next slide. The application, currently, when I was joining the military, that's me at 17, I was given was a screening assessment, which most individuals will probably not be upfront because they don't want to be screened out. And we see this as a game changer to kind of bring some objectivity to the self-reporting survey that's currently being done. So this is a platform of an individual joining the military. Blood's collected already from individuals joining the military, about 200,000 service members join per year, all the military service, and these are time points that individuals are given medical assessment or psychological assessment, and data that has been populated or validating our patent are showing that we're able to see some changes in individuals' gene expression and methylation about 3 to 6 months after deployment. Now, this is just a 1 year annual outline, but I did 6 or 7 years, 3 deployments. My uncle did 30 years. So you can see there are multiple time points where we'll be able to create a platform that will have a huge amount of data that will be able to track an individual soldier over their time of their military career. And this is an unmet need for both the military.
I have a question.
Sure.
Where is this test from? What technology is this? Who's coming up with the test? Where is the validation that this test works?
So this test, Rachel Yehuda out of Mount Sinai, I'll show you a picture later on, started in Holocaust survivor in 1991 out of Yale, and she's kind of developed the gene, certain set of genes that are indicative of predisposition to PTSD trauma. And so what we're seeing now that the DOD started funding this about 5 years ago is that those genes are being validated in replicated studies that are currently ongoing. And so this is the first byproduct of research that was funded out of the World Trade Center and Holocaust survivors.
So your thesis is that you're using blood samples to test against the gene of that particular person to predict PTSD? Is that what you're saying?
Look at predisposition. So 20 to 30% of the ACE report, adverse childhood experience report came out, showed that military individuals joining the service, 20 to 30% of those individuals have already been exposed to 1 to 4 trauma before even signing the dotted line. And our thesis that we think that those are the individual 20% that are having difficulties when they are re-experience combat trauma.
How does gene test catch history of trauma?
So your body goes through a fight or flight, and through the HPA axis, then the cortisol is released, which is a blood-brain barrier. And so we've been looking at research that measures that cortisol level in the brain in postmortem and in blood. And so researchers now are showing that they have that gene expression profile that we could identify for an individual having that exposure to trauma when you're not able to collect that in a current survey. If you give somebody a survey right now, if they wanted to not be honest with the survey, you wouldn't be able to know that.
But that is exactly where I'm going with my questioning, is that what is the correlation between gene and the behavior of genes versus history of trauma prior to joining the military, or prior to the point of testing, whatever?
Yeah, so the point of testing, what we're really doing is trying to narrow down. So currently it's hard to identify individuals that are struggling with PTSD than others. And so what we're looking at is that gene expression profile, individuals that may have had trauma before their military, joining in the military, and maybe we'd be able to stratify those folks not to get into combat profile jobs. So I'll give you an example. That's being done right now with the colorblind test. My COO wanted to be an Air Force pilot. He joined the Air Force Academy, got in, met the profile, but he was colorblind. So couldn't be an Air Force pilot, but he ended up doing 23 years as a combat engineer. So what we look at this is stratifying individuals that we think are high-profile risk, so we don't have them re-experience.
You want to insert this test at the recruitment point and the deployment points to figure out who should not be sent into combat.
But not excluding them from jobs, but maybe they should look at other jobs, or if they do decide to go that route, that we monitor. So,
Got it.
So the market, the market size is we're going to focus on military because that's where a lot of the funding and research have been, and then we're going to scale. About 700 million individuals in the global population are affected by this. Our business model is pretty simple.
You need a go-to-market strategy for that. I think the military go-to-market strategy is good because it's very, very specific. It's like it's at the entry point of at the recruitment, so you can sell it to the. In terms of workflow, you can sell it to the recruitment workflow. You have to figure out, civilians how to get into market. But let's just park that for the moment. How big is your bottom-up TAM for the military market?
So right here is the 200,000. These are active duty members that join every year. So these are what we're talking about at the entry point. So that's picturing a 17, 18-year-old joining the military. About 200,000 soldiers enter into the military workforce. So that gives us a SAM of about 340 million. Our goal is to then make this a test that policy across all military service members, which is about 2.4 million individuals. That gives us a TAM of 4 billion. And so how we plan on doing that, we're a service-disabled veteran company. We're going to try to get a sole source non-compete government contract the end part of next year. We've developed the test working with Illumina. And so we're now validating with about 500 blood samples that we collected from several hospitals that have PTSD cases and controls. We've incorporated, as of last year, we went through the Illumina Accelerator program. We have exclusive license in Europe and in the U.S., pending Canada. Raised about $100,000 in May, June of this year. That got us through the program. And now we're actively looking to raise $1 million to get to, market into the federal government in third quarter 2019. We're raising $1 million to get a match by Viking Global. That's through the accelerator. If we raise $1 million, they match $1 million guaranteed. And so that'll get us to market in government, get that 1% government contract, which is under $4 million, and then continue to collect blood samples that'll get us to the FDA de novo status. Right now, it's a CLIA lab blood test, not required to have FDA approval. And that's my team, Rachel Yehuda, Joe Bucksbaum are two inventors. Mahim Adamson is at the Stanford Palo Alto VA, which will be one where we do the pilot study. And Bill Towett was a Booz Allen executive. I worked for him at Booz Allen before I left to start this company in 2016.
All right. What are your questions?
Primarily, again, I think what I wanted to do was to get in fundraising. I know you made the statement earlier. We do need a little funding to get to the marketing strategy and capture strategy of getting into the government. And so wanted your feedback on, I know the investor community in the West Coast always have trouble with government markets being the first market, and wanted to know if you had any advice around that. Given that we have a proven strategy, however, it might not resonate with traditional VCs on the West Coast.
Well, we work with investors all around the world, not just in the West Coast. 1Mby1M is a global virtual accelerator. So our perspective is actually around the world perspective. It's not limited to the West Coast. The problem with your strategy is that most investors don't put in large chunks of money without some customer validation. So I think what I would need to look at is what is the shortest path to some customer validation that would be able to then attract investment into your company, and that may have to go in stages. It may not go to a straightaway $1 million, $2 million round. It may have to go in stages. The seed funding industry is split into pre-seed, seed, post-seed, pre-Series A, small Series A, large Series A. So there's a whole continuum there, and each of those have different types of criteria. If you want to look at what investors tend to think, you should go look at our seed capital series on the blog. Maureen, why don't you give him the link to the seed capital section of the blog? And we have lots of interviews of investors there. Just to kind of, this is probably not something you've done before in terms of startup fundraising. It may be helpful for you to immerse yourself a little bit into how investors think.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. That would be probably my first recommendation to you. Okay, here we go. Maureen is giving you the link to the seed capital series. So folks, if you like what we are doing here, bring serious entrepreneurs into 1Mby1M. We want to work with entrepreneurs who understand that it's a very intense process to build a company, and it's many years of commitment and so on and so forth. Nothing, it's not a overnight success kind of expectation. All the resources from 1Mby1M are on our website, 1Mby1M.com. There's a blog which is actually free and ton of information there. The seed capital is one of the sections of the blog that I just pointed Yusuf to. You can use the Entrepreneur Journeys book series also to learn some of our methodology. There are 12 volumes of case study-based books that you can dig into. We also have these roundtables happening week after week after week, so you can follow these roundtables to learn. The premium program is our full acceleration offering. We offer you extensive methodology guidance, a full online curriculum. We help you with business development, we help you with funding, we help you with media relations, and we help you with coaching, similar to whether you call it strategy consulting, coaching, mentoring, whatever, but similar format as this, but we have private roundtables where we do that. In addition, I would like you to go look at the 1Mby1M self-assessment. There's a series of questions that you need to ask yourselves about your business. These are the questions that investors would inevitably ask you, but it's better that you ask yourself these questions before you go in front of any investors. And if you get stuck, you can always do the curriculum, the 1M by 1M basic, which is a curriculum-only option, and plug those gaps in your knowledge of methodology so that you can successfully answer these questions. So go dig around on the website. There's a ton of information about what to expect from premium, what to expect from basic, FAQs, video FAQs, description of the curriculum. We are a case study-based program. We have over 900 case studies of successful entrepreneurs. and these include 50 plus unicorn entrepreneurs, 400 plus venture funded companies, another 400 plus bootstrap companies. These are all people that are part of our network, and you learn a lot from other people who have done it before, and that's very helpful to learn from other people who have done it before. Our methodology is lean, capital efficient bootstrap startups. Even if you raise money, the industry operates in a bootstrap first, raise money later mode. So it's very hard to get financing for companies that have no validation whatsoever. So, you know, that's just something that you're going to have to take into account. That's pretty much it. We have one more roundtable left this year. That's December 18th. And then we have roundtables every week in January. So please come to the December roundtable. And if you're looking for a slot to pitch, that would be a good one to register for. We also have a couple of in-person rendezvous left. One is tonight at 6:30 p.m. at Cafe Boroni in Menlo Park. The other one is Wednesday, December 19th at 5 p.m. Pacific time, also at Cafe Boroni. So if you are here locally or if you're visiting from somewhere, please do come to the rendezvous, and I look forward to meeting you in person. That's it. We are ready for Q&A. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Either in public chat, you could also type in your questions, and I'll pick up questions from the public chat, or you can dial in if you like. And while you're doing that, let me introduce you to Irina Patterson. Irina at 1Mby1M.com is her email, and you can contact her with questions about the program. Anybody else? Questions? Comments? We've had a lot of healthcare IT companies lately. There's a lot of activity going on in healthcare right now, healthcare IT, digital health. No? No one has any questions? If you don't have questions, we're going to adjourn the session soon. The US is getting into holiday mode because on Thursday we have Thanksgiving here. So, Yusuf, you're very welcome. What you're doing is very interesting. Actually, all three of you are doing very interesting stuff. So, congratulations, and I wish you all the best in your journeys. Seamus, I will be working with you closely to answer the questions that we discussed. You're very welcome, Tomas. Also, what you're doing is very interesting. All right, folks, looks like we don't have any further questions. We've covered a lot of ground, and it was a very intense session, so I can fully understand that you're overloaded. We will see you in December then for the next public roundtable on the 18th of December. I will actually be in Europe the next 3 weeks. Leaving on Saturday, I will be back on December 15th, and then we'll resume in the US. See you soon. Thank you for coming today. 1 second. Bye-bye, everybody.